How's it going? Who are you with?
I'm with the Hampton Chronicle newspaper. It's nice to meet you.
It's good to meet you.
Yes.
It's great. You want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Just a couple quick questions. First thing is, the city of Hampton has a lot of immigrants here who benefit the community by providing labor, starting businesses, and overall just shopping at stores here locally. How would your immigration policies affect these community members?
I think that for any law-abiding community member, I think they're going to be in great shape. I think that there are many hardworking immigrants, many of my family members included, who come to this country in search of a better life, but also in search of making contributions to a country. What I've said is that we need to fix our border crisis. Our crisis at the southern border is of a historic proportion. We had more people cross Eagle Pass, Texas, in one of the days earlier this week than have ever crossed in the past. And so I stand for the rule of law. And I think many immigrants, actually I met one woman earlier at an earlier event today, actually I think it was the last event that we were at, who told me about how she was, despite being a first-generation Hispanic American, found DACA and found a lot of the illegal, pro-illegal migration policies to be offensive to her and to her family, many of whom have gone through the rules to do this correctly the right way. And so my view is standing for the rule of law is going to be good for all Americans. I think that's who we are as Americans, and that's part of what we celebrate. And I think it is respectful, especially to those Americans who already live here, but also immigrants who do it the right way, to say that we stand for the rule of law. So that's my answer to that question.
Okay. So what about the undocumented immigrants here? What could they expect?
Look, I think that anybody who's in this country illegally should be returned to their country of origin. I think that anybody who's crossing this southern border illegally should be returned to Mexico with the Remain in Mexico policy that's already on the books. But I think the right answer is, as the United States of America, we stand for our principles. One of those is the rule of law, and respect the people who are both here and those who have waited to do it the right way to come to this country legally. That's the way I would lead.
One
Thank
more
you.
quick question, sorry guys.
Last one.
What sets you apart from the other Republican candidates?
Yeah, look, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an outsider, someone coming in from the next generation with fresh legs who can reach and lead the next generation of Americans. I think it's going to take a unique combination to come in and actually face down and shut down much of that shadow government in the deep state. That's not going to take just somebody who knows the Constitution or just somebody with sharp elbows who can break things down. It's going to take somebody with both of those skills. So yes, I'm a businessman, an outsider, a person from the next generation, but I'm also somebody who knows and deeply understands the law and the Constitution of this country. And so my vision, not of incremental reform, but of radically shutting down much of that federal bureaucracy. That's how we unlock this economy. That's how we restore the rule of law in this country. And I think I'm the best positioned candidate to revive national pride and revive our national identity, especially in the next generation of Americans, which is where we need it most.
Mr. Armstrong,
Thank you.
Said other candidates are quietly gloating about the decision in Colorado yesterday, other GOP candidates.
Yeah, who are you with?
Jake Traylor, NBC News.
Thank you.
You said the other candidates were quietly gloating about the decision yesterday in Colorado. What exactly were you referring to?
I'm referring to the fact that many other candidates have now referred to their project in Colorado of being one of collecting delegates. Well, I think there's something deeper at issue here. I think the right answer should be to say that we don't tolerate this form of election interference in the GOP primary. And the easiest way to solve that problem, to nullify the effect of that election interference, is for no GOP candidates to participate in a primary that's rigged. I think other candidates have refused to make that same commitment as me, and I think it reveals that this may be part of their plan, which I don't think is actually what most of the Republican voters want. We don't want a rigged primary. We want one where the people who elect the government leaders are the ones who actually get to choose who leads the government.
No other candidates have followed suit on what you said. Are you surprised by that? Do you expect them to?
I would expect them to. I would hope they do. But I would be deeply disappointed if they don't. I think this is about something bigger than just this election. This is about basic principles in this country. We, the people, are the ones who choose our U.S. president. That's the way it works in the United States. So if you can have unelected judges in a particular state using their own theory of the law when somebody has never even been charged, let alone convicted of an insurrection or otherwise, to make their own interpretation to keep somebody off a ballot, I think that's the beginning of the end of the democratic process in our constitutional republic. And so I would say, I want to make a point, is it would be a lot more convenient for me if Trump weren't in this race, but that's not how I want to win. And any other Republican that's trying to win that way should be ashamed of themselves, and I think has actually revealed themselves to be something other than what they claim to be, which is a true patriot who stands for our constitutional principles.
If Iowa or New Hampshire somehow took Trump off the ballot, would you withdraw from the caucus here or the primary?
Iowa and New Hampshire are not going to do it because we're actually here and responsive to the people, and I think that the answer is. I'm not responding to scenarios that don't exist right now. We see a case that came down from Colorado. It was dead wrong. And the answer is we have to stand for what's right. California is now saying the same thing. I posted that is actually their lieutenant governor is instructing their secretary of state to look into it. I posted the same thing earlier today. The same principle applies there as well. And so I don't know what kind of gotcha game you're trying to play or exactly what agenda or narrative you're trying to push, but I'm giving you my hard answers, which is that I believe we stand on principle, that we should not want election interference in the GOP primary, and it is shameful if other GOP candidates can't stand up with the spine and say the same thing.
So Greg Hyatt with NBC News.
Thank you.
I wanted to get your reporting, or your response to our reporting, that President Xi told President Biden in their get-together about a month ago that you plan to make a move on Taiwan and hope to do so peacefully. If you were in that room as the commander-in-chief and President Xi told you that, how would you react?
If that's factual reporting, I wasn't in the room, but if that's factual reporting, I would say China is absolutely not going to annex Taiwan on our watch. We will defend Taiwan for the foreseeable future. We are not going to live in a world in which China squats on the global semiconductor supply chain with an economic gun to our head. To the contrary, I would have a very different conversation with Xi Jinping. You won't buy land in our country. You won't donate to universities in our country. U.S. businesses are no longer going to expand into the Chinese market. We're going to hold you accountable for unleashing hell on the world with the COVID-19 pandemic, using every financial lever we have available. We're kicking you out of the WTO unless you play by the same set of rules. And you know what? I also know that you, China, are in a tougher spot than we are. They have deflation right now. Your zero COVID policies had as much to do with COVID as the global climate policies have to do with the climate, which is to say nothing at all. So we're done with that farce. And you're going to have to play by the same set of rules, or we're done with this relationship of dependence. And you know what Xi Jinping would have to say? They're in a weaker spot than we are. They're going to have to play by the same set of rules. That's what we're missing right now is a president with a spine. That's what I bring to the table and make sure that China is indeed playing by the same set of rules.
Layli Ipsa from ABC News. What's your response to the allegations towards the Trump campaign that they've rigged the delegate process in their favor?
I would need to see what specific description people are talking about.
Nevada.
The Nevada caucus, I expect to perform well there. I mean, look, I think that having a caucus, I don't think that any state that chooses to have a caucus is to be faulted. To the contrary, I think that it's up to us as candidates to play the rules that are set for us by the states themselves. And I expect to play within those rules and to be the nominee. What I don't want is external interference in this process, which is what we're seeing with a Democrat-led cabal of unelected judges that are trying to willy-nilly eliminate certain candidates from the ballot. That's not something that I support. I'm dead set against that, and I hope the other GOP primary candidates have the courage to say the same thing.
So you don't believe that the Trump campaign has rigged the process in their favor, the delegate process in their favor?
I haven't seen any evidence to suggest that. I think that to the contrary, I expect to be successful in the process that we've laid out. I expect to be the nominee, and we're playing, I think that certain candidates, I think it puzzles me why certain candidates are not participating in a Nevada process when that involves actually part of the path to a nomination. I'm participating in the Nevada caucus, and I expect to be successful.
And a quick follow-up. The Trump campaign has said that they can wrap up this process by March 12th. You've said that you're in this race to win.
Yep.
Is there a plan where you think that you could clinch this nomination, and when is that timeline?
I think that we would be successful over a longer timeline than that. I think that the answer is we're going to shatter expectations in Iowa, and then that's going to propel us forward in what I believe is going to be a primary race that's going to take us to victory, slowly but steadily. That's going to be the answer.
Hi, Mr. Ramaswamy. Allison Abello, CBS News. Good to see you again.
It's good to see you.
So, according to the latest Iowa polls, you're far behind Trump, and some Trump supporters have said that they would support you as vice president. If Trump tapped you for the job, what would you say?
Look, I'm in this to win this. I'm not a plan B person. I'm a plan A person, and that's exactly how I've gotten to where I am in life. I think we're going to win the Iowa caucus. If you look at a lot of the polls, they've totally missed the fact that most of our supporters are first-time caucus goers. They're not polled at all. So many of the people supporting us, they're going to show up at the Iowa caucus. I think it's going to deliver us, certainly shattering the media's expectations. I think they're going to shatter the expectations. But my gut instinct right now is we're going to win the Iowa caucus, and I think that's going to propel us forward in this race.
Absolutely. With the January 6th anniversary coming up, what do you think about Trump's role in the insurrection, and what should be done about the people who?
I think what's actually more shameful is the reality that government officials appear to have set up that as actually a case of entrapment. We've now seen video footage that was previously suppressed. It's shameful we didn't see that video footage before. I think the government needs to tell us the truth about what really happened. I think the Gen 6 commission was a farce. I think we now know that Capitol Police officers let people in, allowed people in, just peacefully and willingly let them into the Capitol, a crime that people were later charged for. And I will pardon any peaceful J6 protester on that day and anybody who had their constitutional rights violated, Brady Rule violations or otherwise. And I think we need to restore one standard of the rule of law for all Americans.
So what do you think was
I want
Trump's
to take this.
involvement with this?
I'm not in this to pick on one person. I'm talking about what happened that day was a machine, a government machine that I think had what increasingly looks like an intentional intelligence failure. And I think that that is wrong. I think that we need to have a government that no longer entraps people, that government that does not arrest people for something that a government facilitated them doing. That's not the rule of law in the United States of America. I stand for the Constitution, and I can tell you what I pledge to do as U.S. President is to pardon any peaceful protester that day and to pardon anybody who suffered due process violations under the Constitution.
This is your 99th county in Iowa, right?
That's right.
That's pretty ambitious. Yeah. So why is it important to you to visit every single county and cover the state of Iowa so thoroughly?
Well, actually, we're covering it extra thoroughly. By January 2nd, we will have visited every one of these 99 counties twice. And the funny thing is that wasn't part of some preordained plan. I said this in the beginning. I don't like to check boxes. We're doing this organically. We're visiting every place in Iowa where we need to meet the people of this state. That's what the caucus process is all about. A lot of the race is driven by super PAC puppet masters buying up ads on television, what the media narrative is. The Iowa caucus goes first for a reason, and it's because it's we the people who decide who ultimately should lead this country. And so this is really democracy in action. It's a beautiful process, and I think that what we have done is organically met people across the state, and it so happens we will have completed our double full Grassley by January 2nd. I think it's the first time in history that a candidate will have done that within a year. And I'm proud of that. And the same way I succeeded in my earlier career, including as a businessman and as an entrepreneur, was using the formula my parents taught me, that luck is spelled W-O-R-K. And so that's how we're running this campaign. That's how we're going to lead this country. And I do think it's going to take a president with fresh legs and energy to be able to lead and revive this country. And so the way we're running this campaign is exactly the level of effort we're going to be putting into running and leading this country. And I'm proud and, frankly, energized by the people we're meeting across the state.
So, Mr.
Thank you.
Ramaswamy, to that point
Thank you.
just made, considering the amount of time and resources you're spending here, going to all the counties, doing it twice,
Yep.
is winning this Iowa caucus a must win for you?
No, I think that beating the media's expectations and shattering the expectations set by the polling, that's exactly what we need to do to stay on track to win this race. And I'm confident that we will. Frankly, last several cycles, the person who's won Iowa hasn't ultimately been the winner. But Iowa winnows the field down, and I'm confident we're going to shatter those expectations.
Is the third place finish good for you in Iowa? Is that
I think we're going to finish in the top three, but the point is we're going to shatter the media's expectations and the polling expectations. That propels us forward. So we're set up to be exactly where we want to be, and as long as we beat the expectations that have been set for us, we're exactly on the path that we need to for me to win the nomination.
Mr. Ramaswamy,
Thank you.
You said you stand with the Constitution, but earlier you said the constitutional argument being made to keep Trump off the ballot no longer applies. So which is it? Is the Constitution?
I stand for the Constitution, not the artificial arguments made using the Constitution. Section 3 of the 14th Amendment was made for people who were parts of the Confederacy from being reelected to a post-Civil War government. So I always stand with the Constitution, not with a fake set of Democratic unelected cabal of judges in a partisan vote in the state of Colorado, interpreting our Constitution in a way that no federal judge would, not that our Supreme Court would either. So I will always stand with the Constitution. And I think what's different about me versus many of the other people who spout off about the Constitution is that I've actually read it. And I suggest people give it a try. It's a great document. Might be worth reading it if you want to swear an oath to it.
Thanks.
Thank you. Hey.
Hey, how's it going?
Good man. It's good to meet your parents.
What's that?
It's good to meet your parents. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Hey, good to see you. Oh, here we are. Thank you. Good to see you guys. Hey, guys. Good to see you. It's great to be here. We were just celebrating a little bit outside of the fact that this is our official stop that completes our first full round of the 99 counties in Iowa. So we've completed the full Grassley as of here in this stop. And we're going to do it a second time over. We'll have been to every county twice by January 2nd. And so we didn't plan it this way, but it so happens that's a special occasion that we're having right here. I want to have an open conversation. I think it's something we don't do often. You guys able to hear me in the back as well? Great. Thank you. We have a culture of fear that is... am I using my built-in microphone? Yeah, that's a little better. That's good. Even better there in the back. Good. We have a culture of fear that has spread across this country like an epidemic. Fear of losing your job. Fear of your kids getting a bad grade in school. Fear of becoming an outcast in your own community. And that culture of fear, it has totally replaced our culture of free speech in America. If you ask me, the best measure of our country's health, what is it? Is it the number of green pieces of paper in our bank account? Is it the number of ballots we cast every November? No. The best measure of our country's health is the percentage of people who feel free to say what they actually think in public. Right now, we're doing poorly. The only way we're going to do better is by all of us, not just me, every one of us starting to speak the truth in the open again. My parents came to this country 40 years ago in search of opportunity without any money. In a single generation, I have gone on to found multiple successful companies. I did it while marrying my wife, Apurva, who is a successful throat surgeon at Ohio State at the cancer hospital, where she saves lives of cancer survivors. Raising our 2 sons. One of them's 3.5. One of them's 1.5 years old. Following our faith in God. That is the American dream. I'm worried that that American dream isn't going to exist for our 2 sons and their generation unless we step up and do something about it. We're in the middle of an identity crisis, a national identity crisis right now. Faith, patriotism, hard work, family. These things have disappeared, only to be replaced by new secular religions in America. Wokeism, transgenderism, climatism, COVIDism, depression, anxiety, fentanyl, suicide. It's not an accident that we see the rise of these same poisons at the same time. These are symptoms of a deeper void of purpose and meaning in our country. And I see a Republican Party, this is why I'm in this race, I see a Republican Party that has grown lazy. I don't just mean lazy in the get out the vote operation sense of this. I mean lazy in a deeper sense. A Republican Party that has grown lazy just to criticize the other side for that poison. The other sides, they will offer a vision. Say what you will, it's the wrong vision, but they'll offer a vision. Race, gender, sexuality, climate. And we've gotten lazy just to sit here criticizing that vision, but without offering a real alternative vision of our own. What do we actually stand for? Individual, family, nation, God. That beats race, gender, sexuality, and climate if we have the courage to actually stand for something. We can't just be running from something anymore. We got to start running to something, to our vision of what it means to be an American. What does it mean to be a citizen of this nation? What does it mean to be an American today? That's what we've lost. To me, it means we believe in the ideals of the American Revolution. The ideals of 1776, ideals like meritocracy and the pursuit of excellence. The idea that you get ahead in this country not on the color of your skin, but on the content of your character and your contributions. That is why I've said that we will end affirmative action and racial quota systems in every area of American life. It's been a cancer on our national soul, and we are done with it. It means we believe in the rule of law. And I say this as the kid of legal immigrants to this country.
That means your first act of entering this country cannot break the law. That is why we will use our own military to secure our own southern border and our northern border too. That's what it means to stand for the rule of law in the United States of America. It means that we, the people, create a government that is accountable to us, not the other way around. That the people who we elect to run the government ought to be the ones who actually run the government. Not the shadow government in those three-letter agencies in the deep state that runs the show today. So you know what? If I can't work for you as your next president for more than 8 years, which I think is a good thing, then neither should any of those federal bureaucrats reporting into me either. 8-year term limits for the bureaucracy instead of civil service protections. That's how you actually drain the swamp. 75% reduction in the number of federal bureaucrats. Shut down government agencies that shouldn't exist. From the failed Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, to the ATF, to the CDC, to the U.S. Department of Education. We're not just going to tinker around the edges anymore. We will get in there and actually shut them down. And I want you to push me on how we're going to do this. This isn't sloganeering. We have clear practical plans within the rule of law to exactly get this done. Don't just start with last year's budget as the baseline and try to massage it into behaving properly. Start with 0 as the baseline and ask what's actually necessary, true zero-based budgeting. That's something we need to revive in this country. That's how you tackle the national debt problem. That's how you drain the swamp. This shouldn't be controversial. This is common sense. To get there, we need elections we can trust, that we can believe in. That's what it means to be American. Single-day voting on Election Day as a national holiday with paper ballots and government-issued voter ID to match the voter file. And yes, English as the sole language that appears on a ballot. These aren't black ideas or white ideas. These aren't even really Democrat ideas or Republican ideas, not really. These are American ideals that we fought a revolution to secure in this country. And I believe deep in my heart that those ideals still exist. I'm running for president to revive them. It's on the back of our coins. What does it say? E pluribus unum. It means from many, one. That's what we've lost in this country. We've been taught to celebrate our diversity and our differences so much that we forgot all of the ways we are really the same as Americans, bound by that common set of ideals. And here's how we're going to get it back. It's going to be by all of us, not just me, all of us, starting to speak the truth in the open again. Say in public what you will say in private at the dinner table. Say it with a spine. Say it with conviction. Say it with respect. But part of respect is that you respect your neighbor enough to tell him what you actually think. That's what this campaign is about. Speaking the truth, not just when it's easy, but when it's hard. Speaking the truth, not just to the Democrats on the other side, but to our own side in this party, the Republican Party, right here at home. That's what we're doing every day. There's a reason why I'm the only candidate in this race who can even touch certain topics. The CO2 pipeline, making its way across half of this state, using eminent domain. That's unconstitutional. That's a threat to private property. I'm the only candidate in this race who's able to say a word about it. It's the only answer. It's the hard answer. Speak the hard truth. And I know why. The other candidates got the same phone calls that I did, telling us to shut up, sit down, do as you're told on this one. I refuse to do that. I'm the only candidate in this race who's able to say that that's based on a climate change agenda that absolutely is a hoax because it has nothing to do with the climate. The only candidate who's made a clear pledge to pardon any peaceful protester on January 6th during my first day in office. That's the right thing to do, to stand for one standard of the rule of law in this country. It's the right thing to do. The only candidate who said that Ronna McDaniel, the failed chairwoman of the RNC, should be held accountable after 5 failed years of leadership. Ask yourself why I'm the only candidate who can dare to touch these issues. I'll tell you why. Every politician dances to the tune of their biggest donor. Okay? It's exactly right. Bought and paid for system. That's what this is. And in my case, that biggest donor is me. I would rather speak the truth and lose some election than to win by playing some political snakes and ladders. I think that's going to be the winning strategy, but that's not up to me. That's up to you. The things I'm saying, they're controversial not because they're false, but because they are true. Things that if I had told you 10 years ago, you would have said, oh, what's so controversial about that? That God is real. That there are 2 genders. Never thought I'd have to say that one. That fossil fuels are a requirement for human prosperity. That reverse racism is racism. That an open border is not a border. That parents determine the education of their children. That the nuclear family isn't a bad word. It is the best known form of governance known to mankind. That capitalism lifts us up from poverty. That there are 3 branches of government in the United States, not 4. And that the U.S. Constitution is the strongest and greatest guarantor of freedom in human history. That is the truth. We fight for the truth. We stand up for the truth. That is what won us the American Revolution. That is what reunited us after the Civil War. That is what won us 2 world wars and the Cold War. That is what still gives hope to the free world. And if we can revive that dream over group identity and victimhood and grievance, then nobody in the world, not a nation, not a corporation, not a virus, not China, is going to defeat us. That is what American exceptionalism is all about. And that is what we are going to revive to save this great country. Thank you for coming out today, guys. God bless you and your families and our great country, the United States of America. I want to open this up, practice what we preach a little bit. I sit across the table from Xi Jinping. I'll sit across the table from our own voters and take the hard questions. Foreign policy, my domestic policy, faith, family, it's all fair game. So anybody in the back or in the front, you got questions, I'll give you the mic. If you're in the back, they'll give it to you.
So if you win the election, you'd be the youngest president in our history. What kind of led you to run for president?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I do think that these revolutions, these revivals, they tend to be led by the next generation for a reason. I think it's going to take a commander-in-chief now more than ever, not just someone from the outside, but somebody with fresh legs. Somebody who can reach and lead the new generation of Americans. Thomas Jefferson, he was 33 when he wrote the Declaration of Independence, actually. So I'm an old man by comparison to him, but young compared to other presidents, that's true. I'll tell you what led me into this is, it's a little bit of, I don't often tell this story, but back when I was a CEO, so I was a CEO of a biotech company that I built as CEO. We got a number of medicines approved. A number of medicines that we developed are approved. 5 of them are FDA-approved medicines for different diseases. One is a therapy in kids, where 20 kids a year are born with a genetic disease where 100% of them die by the age of 3. We worked on one where a majority of those kids now can live lives of normal duration if they're treated. Yeah, so that's the kind of work I was doing. And then George Floyd dies, and there's BLM riots across this country. I know you're supposed to call them peaceful protests, but they were violent riots across this country. And there was a demand that every biotech CEO and every tech CEO somehow make a statement on behalf of BLM, and even a donation to go with it. I refused to. That actually led to a series of controversies, and I had to step down from my job as a biotech CEO to be able to speak my mind freely. Multiple advisors to my company resigned, etc. So that was an eye-opening moment for me I didn't think I was going to do this through politics. So I wrote a series of books. I wrote Woke Inc. I wrote 2 more books after that in the last couple of years. I started an asset management firm then to say, I'm going to solve this through the market. I started a firm called Strive to compete directly with BlackRock and State Street and Vanguard. And I don't know if you know much about these firms, but they're using your retirement money to foist these values onto corporate America. Values that don't advance your financial interests, but that are pushing left-wing ideologies. I started a firm that said, get that left-wing politics out of the boardroom. Focus on products for profit. And that was a success as well. My biotech company is a multi-billion-dollar company. This one crossed $1 billion in assets under management within the first year of launching its first fund, which was twice as fast as it took J.P. Morgan to get to the same place. And so that's where my pride was as an entrepreneur. But I saw that red wave that never came last year. And then there's something about this. I mean, we brought our second son into the world last year. Something about being a parent. Looks like you're a parent. Your kids maybe a little bit.
Fourth on the way. So.
Fourth on the way. Good for you. Good for you. That's a good thing to do, is bring more young Americans into this world. You look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, do you want to be a passive bystander to what you see happening in this country? And for me, my faith actually teaches me God puts each of us here for a purpose. That we each have our own unique God-given gifts. And it's our duty to use the gifts that God has given us to do good in the short time that we're given. And I think right now what we're going to require of the president is somebody who can do something the Republican Party hasn't been. Offer a vision of what we stand for. A vision that can reach the next generation that is starved, directionless, lost, hungry for purpose and meaning. And as a younger person, I think I can do that better than I would be able to 30 years from now. And I also think it's going to take somebody who has 2 unique skill sets right now to shut down that shadow government. On one hand, you need an outsider, somebody who has been a businessman and a CEO, to come and break glass when necessary, fire the people who need to be fired. Trump brought that, I bring that. I think I bring that to an even greater degree. But I think more importantly than that, it also takes somebody who knows and understands the law and the Constitution of this country. And those 2 qualities don't usually go together. Now, you might have the nerdy legal scholar type, you might have the executive that can break glass, but those 2 things don't usually go together. That's what this country, I think, requires, especially a leader from the next generation with fresh legs that can see it through. And so knowing that, knowing what this country has blessed us with, my parents would have never imagined that we were living the life we are when they came to this country 40 years ago, or even when I was growing up. In Evendale, Ohio, my dad's facing layoffs under Jack Welch's tenure at GE. We would have never imagined that my wife and I live the blessed life that this country has given us. I could not watch myself just be a passive bystander to see that same country decay before we pass it on to our kids. And that's what pulled me into this. Who made the decision started thinking about it seriously in December. By January, we had decided. By February, I was in the race. That's exactly how it played out. And once we do something, we don't do it half-heartedly. We're all in. We're not stopping until we get the job done. The destination is not November 2024. That is not the destination. That is the start line. The real destination is January 2033, when we leave office after 2 terms. What do I want to tell you that we did, actually? I want to tell you we shut down the deep state, grew this economy, declared independence from China, stayed out of World War III, secured our borders. I'll tell you all those things. But the most important thing I want to tell you is that your kids, and my 2 sons and their generation, that they are once again proud to be citizens of this nation. That's what we've lost, and I believe I'm in this race because I am best positioned to reach that next generation and revive that national pride. And that's what pulled us into this. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Go to the young man here.
Hello.
Hey.
What's up, Vivek?
It's good to see you.
You too. You mentioned BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. I think maybe you could throw the WEF, Klaus Schwab, and even the FBI, you've talked about them. But these powers that be that aren't elected or they're definitely players in the game and whatnot and have control of certain things. How, as like a president, would you deal with or how would you deal with these unelected? And like I said, I know you've mentioned the FBI and whatnot, but
Yep.
black
Happy to.
caucus.
So a couple different categories there. First, let me talk about the administrative state, the FBI. I mean, those three-letter agencies, they all report to the U.S. president. That's in the executive branch of the government. So my job as the next U.S. president is to lead the executive branch of government. Fair enough. So they say you can't fire those employees because of civil service protections. That's how they duped Trump. Wrong. If somebody works for you and you can't fire them, that means they don't work for you. It means you work for them because you're responsible for what they do without any authority to actually change it. So here's the answer. 35,000 employees at the FBI. 20,000 of them are in back office functions at the J. Edgar Hoover building. They're going to go home and find honest work in the private sector. 15,000 of them are cops, investigative agents on the front lines, generally good people. Move them to the U.S. Marshals or to the DEA, much better at fighting child sex trafficking or the fentanyl epidemic. Move them to the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network to go after the future financial fraudsters, the SBFs or the FTXs of the world, with greater expertise. So these aren't just slogans for me. These are deeply practical plans. We have the legal authority to do it. We need a president with the spine to see it through. That's for the administrative state. Now let's talk about sort of the fascism that we see. Fascism is one definition. Mussolini's was the merger of state power and corporate power to together do what neither one could on its own. That's the BlackRock problem, where they're using our own money, your money, retirement money, 401k accounts, to vote for policies in corporate America's boardrooms that most of us actually disagree with. So I tried to solve that as an entrepreneur by providing competition. But a lot of this starts with the government. Biden wrote a pro-ESG rule that said that investment managers no longer have to take into account solely profit for their clients, but can take into account other factors like climate change, where they said non-pecuniary factors like climate change. Well, that's a violation of ironclad principles that got us to where we are. I'll rescind those rules. And then we look at the international institutions, from the WEF to the WHO to, frankly, even the UN. We will stop using our own taxpayer money to fund institutions that are hostile to our own sovereignty in the United States of America. That ends on my watch. The assault on our sovereignty ends. Central bank digital currencies out the window along with it. WHO, large vision for global vaccine mandates or otherwise. No, that ends on my watch. We will reclaim the sovereignty of the United States of America. And the worst part is we're paying for the imposition and the loss of our own sovereignty. That's what changes on my watch. Thank you. Appreciate it.
What's your plan on stopping sending money overseas? We have always heard.
My plan to stop sending foreign aid overseas is to stop sending foreign aid overseas. Yeah.
Do you think you can get that accomplished?
I think so, absolutely. So we're going to bring that zero-based budgeting mentality to the federal government. We're going to bring that to our foreign aid as well. What happens is actually most of our foreign aid isn't even going to actually help other people. It's helping to pay for bigger houses for kleptocrats in other countries. That's what's happening in Ukraine. So here's my rule of thumb. It's a basic, radical idea here. We have a $34 trillion national debt problem in this country. Your kids, my kids, they have over $200,000 per person of national debt hanging on their own shoulders that they never signed up for. So my rule is, we will not send an iota, not a penny, of foreign aid to any country whose national debt per person is less than ours. Turns out that's almost every other country. So why on earth are we going to actually, when we're $34 trillion in the hole, bankrupt, why are we going to send our money willy-nilly to somebody else? Don't use our military to protect somebody else's random nation's border halfway around the world. Use it to protect our own borders right here in the United States of America. That shouldn't be controversial. That's basic common sense. So my foreign policy is avoid World War III, declare economic independence from communist China, and then secure our own homeland. Cyber defense attacks, super EMP attacks, border defenses, missile defenses. We're badly missing that. Pay for that in this country. Don't pay to hand out willy-nilly money to somebody else somewhere else. In Central America, we're done giving that foreign aid away. What we want from them is they need to build their own borders for each of those countries between Venezuela and our northern border. So we need to start standing with the spine for this country. The two principles, we use this word America first a lot. I'm an America first conservative. Trump's an America first leader. But we got to take this to the next level. I'm going further than Trump did with this. In part because we got to define what we actually stand for. What's the principles? I think there's two principles of being an America First conservative. One is that the people who we elect to run the government should be the ones who actually run the government. And the second is the people who we do elect to run the government have one moral duty. It is to the citizens of this country, not any other one. Just as a father, my moral obligation is to my family. As your next president, my sole moral duty is to you. The citizens of this country, not another one. America First does not come with an asterisk. You got a bunch of Republicans care. The silly thing is, that's America Last policy. Cut Social Security benefits and cut veterans benefits so we can ship another $200 billion to Ukraine. Problem with so many of my fellow Republicans is they care more about Ukrainians than they don't give a damn about Americans here at home. That changes on my watch. That's the moral duty. That's what George Washington admonished us of in his 1796 farewell address. We would do well to remember what George Washington had to say. Would he be proud or would he be rolling in his grave? I think he would be appalled if he were alive today. That will change on my watch. $7 trillion in Iraq and Afghanistan. Thousands of our sons and daughters died in those two wars. When 20 years later, to what end? The Taliban is still in charge. Iraq is a more broken country than when we invaded them for 20 years. That ends on my watch. My moral duty is to the citizens of our homeland. When we're strong at home, that's actually better for the rest of the world. What hope does the free world have if the shining city on a hill no longer shines? That changes on my watch, and I think that's how we're going to lead. Thank you, my man. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Please.
Can you speak to the indoctrination of our children in public education?
Yes.
I'm a retired teacher, and when President Trump came out and said, we're not doing any of that CRT stuff, I thought, what is that?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it's explosive. It's in every textbook
Yes.
that's been printed in the last 6 years. And yeah, speak towards that.
Absolutely. So we got to go to the head of the snake, the root cause of much of this. It's the U.S. Department of Education. So what they're doing is they're collecting $80 billion of our taxpayer money, sending it to D.C., but then going back to local schools and effectively saying they don't get that money unless they adopt these toxic racial and gender ideologies. So not of all this is organic bottom up. Otherwise, you wouldn't see it happening everywhere in the country at the same time. It's top down. In fact, they even tell certain schools in Oklahoma or other parts of the Midwest, you've seen cases where if they're teaching archery or hunting, they say they don't get that money either. So they'll both tell you what you have to teach and what you can't teach. That ends on my watch. And I'm going to do it a little differently than Trump's move was he put a good person, Betsy DeVos, on top, and he said, try to reform it. You cannot reform these agencies. They are unreformable. The first step to improvement is acknowledging the truth. That's a hard pill to swallow. You cannot reform these agencies. We will shut it down. $80 billion, that money spent by the Department of Education, return it to parents across this country so parents can determine where they send their kids to school. Then you have choice. Now transparency plus choice is the answer. What does transparency mean? If you're going to teach it in the classroom, put it on the internet. If you don't want to put it on the internet, then don't teach it in the classroom. That shouldn't be controversial. And then now you have transparency, you have choice. Then you have a revival of civic education. That's how you dilute a lot of this poison to irrelevance. I think every high school senior should have to pass the same civics test that every immigrant has to pass in order to become a voting citizen of this country. I don't think that's too much to ask. You got to have skin in the game to play in the game. You got to know something about a country. You don't value a country you just passively inherit. So that's how we're going to drive change. I mean, that's an example of just a quick line item view. Go after the head of the snake. And then much of what you're seeing, even in the indoctrination of teachers, is actually a civil rights violation. I'll tell you, I haven't told this story much on the campaign trail, but there's a woman who became a friend of mine, but we were in a position where she was in a tough spot, and our family had the honor of helping them out in a small way that we were able to. Her name is Gabrielle Clark. She was in Las Vegas, Nevada, and her son William was in a class, and he was in 11th grade, so he's getting ready for college, studious young man. And he's a musician, talented in a lot of ways. He's in a class. I might have been in 12th grade, actually. Fall of 12th grade is when this happened. And the class required you to step forward if you had white privilege or step back if you were oppressed. And they did it by race, gender, and sexual orientation. He refused to participate. He was suspended from school. They warned him you have to participate. They gave him a series of warnings. He said, I wouldn't do it. Because he did not confess his white privilege because his skin color had a lower shade of melanin than mine. He did not acknowledge his privilege. He was suspended. He got a failing grade in that school, in that class, and that put him in a place where he was then in jeopardy of being able to go to the college where he thought he was going to go. This is a single mother living in difficult economic circumstances where they needed with some financial help when they needed to file a lawsuit. Our family, thankfully, was in a position, I'm glad we were introduced and was able to help them in a small way. But here's the appalling and sort of almost ironic part of the story. His mother, who I met, and it was striking when I saw her for the first time, because I'd heard the facts of the story, and then you meet her, his mother's black. Turns out his father was white, but he happened to have lighter skin. And here's a half-black kid who isn't confessing his white privilege, and he's suspended for his failure to do so, and actually gets a failing grade in the school. Unbelievable. That's where, when you talk about the indoctrination in our school, I can't imagine a more twisted example, except you can, because you're seeing it happen in schools across this country. So I've written books about this. My first book, Woke Inc., was about this. My second book, Nation of Victims, was in part about this too. It's going to take a president who understands it. More than just slogans. Uses the civil rights laws to say we have to apply them even-handedly and then shut down the head of the snake, the Department of Education. That much I'm going to get done. And as a father of two sons and as a parent myself, I'm passionate about this. And so you have my word. That's something we're going to be able to see through in my first few months in office. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you. Time for one more question.
Mr. Ramaswamy,
Yeah.
do you think the EU's Digital Services Act is a threat to freedom of speech and expression here in the United States?
Yes, and I think it's also a threat to our own sovereignty in the United States. So I think that, look, I'm a big fan of taking a long, hard look at how our data is being exploited by other technology companies, but we need to do that on our own terms here. But this country is founded on free speech. And so do we want a reasonable framework where people can actually own their own data with full consent before they part ways with it? Yes, I think we need that in this country. We need to do that on our own terms. But the most important principle in our Constitution is free speech. Free speech and open expression. And I think the threats to free speech now come from both parties. You have one hand, the left, that's trying to use tech companies to silence speech through the back door that government could not itself censor through the front door under the Constitution. Well, guess what? If it is state action in disguise, the Constitution still applies. The government should not be able to use tech companies and threaten them to censor speech that the government disfavors, because that's just as bad as the government doing it directly. So what I've said is anytime we've had a government official that has threatened a private company to do something that that government actor couldn't do on his own, we will publish that and hold every one of those government actors accountable. Release the state action files. I can do that as your next president. Now, on the other hand, we're also seeing many voices on the right, even in the Republican Party. You have other candidates running for U.S. president who have said that any social media user should have to have their profile tied to their own government-issued ID. This is Orwellian. This is totalitarian. Tie that to a central bank digital currency, now you're to China. And so that's coming from the Republican Party. So I don't care if you have an R or a D after your name. I will stand against that with the firmness of conviction. Once the government starts deciding who can and cannot speak, or which opinions can and cannot be expressed, we don't have a country left. That's what this country was founded on. No matter how much I disagree with your speech or your opinion, you still have the right to say it. That's what the First Amendment says. And I think it's something we should demand of anybody who we put in the office of president. If you're going to swear an oath to the Constitution, you might as well know what it says. Actually, I don't think that's too much to ask of a U.S. president. And so when I swear an oath to the Constitution, I intend to keep it. That includes that First Amendment, which also includes religious liberty. Something we've also forgotten in this country. You have the right to practice your faith. without the government or the FBI or anything else applying a different standard of the rule of law because you're Christian or Catholic or, frankly, a member of any religion in the United States. That's part of what we need to revive in this country. And, I'll tell you, sometimes it's hard to remember that. I mean, I'm a little different than the other Republicans in this race. You look at the college campuses, a lot of these idiotic protests, anti-Semitic, speech, which I think is offensive in many cases, in the aftermath of what Hamas did to Israel, which was dead wrong. At the same time, I disagree with people like Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley. It's not a hit on them. It's just a disagreement. They believe that the right answer is you have to disband those student groups and stop them from speaking because what they say is offensive. I agree what they're saying is offensive, but censorship is never the right answer. The right answer is to bad speech is always more speech. And especially young people, they're hungry for leadership. It's not that they know they're much about what's going on in the Middle East. They don't have the first clue. They're lost. And so we're going to create a worse underbelly of whatever it is we're trying to prevent. We're going to create a worse version of that if we try to censor it. I think that racism is spreading far more across this country because of the so-called anti-racist movement or because of race-based affirmative action in this country. So the left has been making this mistake for a long time, but it's up to us to step up and stand for that Constitution rather than to sacrifice those principles. And my litmus test is if George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, Thomas Jefferson, and John Jay were walking around today, would they be proud or would they be appalled? They would be appalled. And it's up to us, now a new generation, to say we will stand for those constitutional ideals without apologizing for who we are. I'll tell you, if we do, I think this is our moment to do it. We're not working with a lot of time. If your kids, how old are they, if you don't mind me asking?
7 and 5.
7 and 5. Mine are, one's almost 4 and the other one's 1.5. If your kids are out of high school, before we get this right, then I don't think we have a country left. That's where we are right now. The hour is late. I think we need a president who understands that. But if we get this right now, if our national debt, the interest payments on our national debt become the largest line item in our federal budget, then we're in quicksand. We're done. That's 5 years from now. So we are not working with a lot of time. To your question, that's what gives me my sense of urgency. Can we wait till in the future when it's a more convenient time in our life? That works for us. Doesn't work for this country. This is our moment. But if we get this right now, then I don't think we have to be that nation in decline. I don't think we have to be ancient Rome. I think as a nation right now, we are really just a little young, actually. Going through our own version of adolescence. Figuring out who we're going to be when we grow up. And when you view it that way, it makes sense again, actually. You go through your adolescence, you go through that identity crisis. You lose your way a little bit. You do some stupid things. But we are stronger for it when we get to our adulthood on the other side. So no, I don't think we have to be that nation in decline. I think we still can be a nation in our ascent. Maybe even the early stages of our ascent, actually. Maybe we're not even at base camp. On our way still to that shining city on a hill. That country where we will look our kids in the eye and mean it when we tell them that the United States of America is still the nation where no matter who you are, or where your parents came from, or what your skin color is, that you get ahead in this country with your own hard work, your own commitment, your own dedication. And that you know what? You are free to speak your mind at every step of the way. That is the American dream. That is what we are running to. And with your help, that's what we're going to revive to save this great country. I'm here to ask you for your help. A guy like me isn't supposed to do this. The system isn't set up for it. Believe me. Outsider from the next generation, uncontrollable by the donor class. You know, Ronna McDaniel of the RNC has said, I won't get another cent of funding from the RNC. That's fine. I don't report to them. I report to you. If you want somebody who's going to speak truth to power and shut down the deep state, vote for somebody who's going to speak the truth to you. But I need your help to do it. I think we're going to win the Iowa caucus. I think we're going to deliver a major surprise on January 15th. Many of the people supporting us are not traditionally polled, actually. So we have a shock coming up. If you all in this committee, every one of your voices, I'm here to actually ask you for a donation, to be blunt about it. It's the most valuable donation you could give. Not a donation of your money, a donation of your time, actually. 15 minutes of your time to save this country on January 15th. Every one of your votes at the Iowa caucus, it's the power of 1 million votes in shaping who the U.S. president actually is. That's why Iowa goes first. If every one of you can come to that on January 15th, and I'm going to ask you one more thing, and our team can help you with this. If you sign up with us, we'll help you in whatever way we can. Be a precinct captain, you could speak, be a volunteer. Bring 100 people who aren't in this room today, who aren't in this restaurant right now, but who are in this community, who also care about the future of this country. Bring them on January 15th, too. And if you all do your part, I promise you, my wife and I, Purva and I and our family, we are going to do ours. To make sure, not in some cheesy politician kind of way, but in a true way, make sure that our country's best days are actually still ahead of us. Thank you all for coming today, guys. God bless you and your families and our United States of America. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. What's your name?
Mark Ellison. My wife, Joanne.
Thank you for being here, Mark.
Oh, yeah.
Have you done the Iowa caucus before?
Yes, we
Thank
are
you.
members of the Franklin
Oh, excellent.
County
Amazing. Thank you.
Republican
It's done this way.
Central
You know that,
Committee.
You guys go first for a reason, and I love it.
That's right.
I love it.
Now, we've met with your, what was that lady?
Kathy?
Kathy? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That's great.
we
She's
was
great.
the only ones there.
Mark
because,
and I had a
Well, thank you for coming.
but I can't remember. Everybody else had other things to do, you
right,
know.
and there was
We had a good time with her.
there was
That's great.
Yeah, there
Well, if
was
you-
She here
there
today?
was a
She's not here
mix-up.
today, but she's in a
Oh.
different location.
There was a
Oh.
mix-up as to when
Oh.
you were going to be there.
I'm sorry. I
They're
didn't know.
like, oh my gosh. So you
Well, here you are. Well, thank you.
Well, yeah, here we are.
If you spread the message to the rest of that committee, I'd appreciate it. Tell them we
Well,
appreciate
good
it.
luck.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Thanks for everything you do, too. We're going to save this country together.
it's going to take a lot.
That's right, and we're ready for it.
Good luck, sir.
Thank you,
We're
man.
glad we took the time to come here and listen to you. You're
glad you did
very,
too.
very inspirational. You made a believer out of me.
Thank you. That means
I
a
was
lot to me.
leaning, I was leaning towards you anyway, but you sealed the deal today, okay, buddy?
I appreciate that. That means a lot to me. We take that
I mean-
seriously. Thank you. What's your name, sir?
Paul.
Paul.
My wife, Colleen.
Nice to meet
What's
you.
it?
Colleen.
Colleen. Good to see you, Colleen. Good to see you. Thank you for being here,
I'm so
guys.
glad you came.
I'm glad you came too. Thank you.
I'm going to spread the word.
That would mean a lot to
Yeah,
me.
I will.
And I think we're going to do this. I
Yeah.
think we're really going to do this. We
Well,
can save this country.
I'll be there Monday night.
We can save this country. Thank you very much.
you.
Paul. I appreciate it. Hi.
Thank you. Hi,
What's your name?
Sherry.
Sherry. It's good to see you.
It's good to hear you. I've heard you. I've seen you on Fox a lot, even way before.
Oh, a long time ago, yeah.
Before presidential stuff, and I was always impressed with you. So
Thank you. I appreciate
I
that.
think
Sherry, you
you're
live
good.
here?
In Sheffield, about 10 minutes away. So
Thank you.
I think you're the right man at the right time.
Thank you. We're going to do our part. I promise you that. Thank you. With your help, we can do this.
Thank you. I was really impressed today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. With your help, we're going to do this. Thank you. What's your name?
Thank you so much. I'm Sarah.
Sarah?
This is my brother Silas.
Hey,
it's going to
thank
be
you
his
guys for
first
coming.
time voting.
Amazing. How old
so
are you
we're
guys?
Excited. I'm 23.
I'm 17.
17.
Oh, awesome.
So it'll be his
And you know you
first
can vote in the
time.
caucus
Yep.
at 17, yeah?
Right in on it. So we're
Oh,
wondering
awesome,
if we
guys.
could grab
Come on
a
in,
quick
guys.
photo.
Thank you. Thank you.
1, 2, 3.
Thank you so much.
You spread the message
Appreciate it.
among young
Yep.
people in
Appreciate you coming out
particular.
He wants to talk to you about it with his class at school tomorrow. So,
Oh,
yeah.
Bring them all out to the caucus.
I know. I had another kid
That'd be
who
awesome.
wanted to come too.
That's
but-
right. Bring the whole class to the caucus. We actually shock the world if we do that.
I learned a lot.
Thank you.
I mean, we even watched some of the debate today.
Thank you, man.
Had a good time.
I appreciate
Appreciate you
it.
coming
Thank you,
by.
brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
Hey,
Vivek,
thank you
for
for
your
coming out,
words.
man.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing these guys out. How are you? It's good to meet you. What's your name? Mary. What's yours? Miriam. And what's it? Micah. It's good to meet you guys. Thank you for coming out.
thanks for
brother.
what you stand for.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
Spread the positive message, and we're going to do this.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
There was something on the
It's good to
news
see
this
you.
morning about you, but
Oh,
I didn't
yeah.
catch it.
What was it?
Well, I thought they said you were going to step down.
No, I said, oh no. What they said was, what they must have said was, they're removing Trump from the ballot in Colorado.
Right.
And so I said, unless his name's on the ballot, every other Republican needs to also not participate in the Colorado
Okay,
ballot.
that's what it was about?
In the state of Colorado. Yeah, yeah.
So I was at work, so I only caught.
Oh no. Yeah, it was a point about Colorado.
Okay.
And you saw that news.
Yes,
Yeah.
I knew about
So
that.
I said that if every Republican says they're not, then they can't interfere with the election, because this is election interference in the GOP primary. So I said if every other Republican also stands in solidarity and says that we're not going to tolerate this election interference, then that will force their hand. That's what I said.
Okay, all right. I was just a little
No,
worried.
no, no.
All
Oh,
right.
no. We're not going anywhere.
Okay.
We're not stopping until we get the job done for this country.
Good. And your next
Yeah.
stop is Marshalltown. I got friends, so I'm going to text them and tell them
Oh, we're
to
going to
show
be there.
up.
Thank you.
Yep.
Please spread the word in this community,
I will.
too. We're going to do our part. Thank you. Merry Christmas. I love your shirt. Thank you. Thank you. Hey.
Thanks for talking about the issues that matter to us the most.
I appreciate that, man.
Where do you stand on the mandatory minimum federal sentences for people in the judicial system?
Yeah, I think that those are abused, and I think that those mandatory minimums I don't think are a good guideline. That's where I stand. I don't know if you agree with that or not. But
I
that's
agree
where I stand.
100% with you
Okay.
on that.
Well, that's where I stand.
And the Republicans need to get their stuff together. Like
They
you
do.
said,
They do. We gotta stand for something.
Like you said, we've
She's
lost.
broken.
You brought all that to attention.
Accountability in our own party. That's what we're going to do. So thank you.
Yep.
What's your name?
Tim Springer.
Tim. You participate in this Iowa caucus.
I do. I do.
And you spread the message in this community.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
We're
Take care.
counting on you, Tim. Thank you.
Be careful.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Hey, man. Good to see you guys. How you doing?
We just get a-
Yeah, absolutely, guys. You guys got to come out to the Iowa caucus. Your generation, brother.
1, 2, 3. You're good.
January 15th, brother. Thank you.
We're bringing all our
We're
guys.
counting. Absolutely, brother. That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
Hey.
quick question. I would
Yes.
love-
Yeah. We just met outside. Good
Really
to see you.
quick, why should people here vote for you?
Yes. I think I'm going to be the single person who's going to be able to revive national pride in this country while also uniting this nation. And I think that national unity comes from reviving the ideals that set our country into motion. I think I'm the only candidate who can do that. And if you want somebody who's going to get in there and speak truth to power, who's going to end the corruption, then vote for somebody who's going to speak the truth to you. I'm the only person who's able to speak about the carbon capture pipeline, about what really happened on January 6th and the pardon of those peaceful protesters, about the fact that we need accountability in the Republican Party at the top with Ronna McDaniel and others. I'm the only candidate who's able to speak the truth when it's hard. That's what's going to be required in order to revive this country, and I think I'm the best person to ultimately reform the corruption and end the corruption in the federal government.
Okay, great.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hi. What's your name?
Genevieve.
Genevieve. Good to see you. We'd love to see you at the Iowa caucus.
Yeah, I will be here.
Thank you. Spread the message. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, guys. Yeah. Thank you. See you guys. See you the next time. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Are you into one evening? No, you're not.
Thank you.
What's your
very
name,
much.
man?
Mark.
Mark?
Yeah.
Good to meet you,
My
man.
wife's
Do you
a
live
big
around
fan.
here?
Yeah, actually right down the street.
Awesome. Well, tell your wife and your whole family, come out to the Iowa caucus on January 15th.
All right.
We need you.
Oh, yeah.
We're
plan.
counting on
We
you.
plan.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
very
Hey, guys. Hey, guys. Good to see you again. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you for having us. It's a great restaurant. Thank you. Good to see you again, man. Yeah.
I'm following you to
You're
the
good.
bus.
Oh, you are? Excellent. Come on over. Are you joining us on the bus?
For just a
bit? Okay, good.
interview anyway.
We'll see you guys. Take care, guys. Thank you.
If you start moving, I got to bail off.
We just did the
Yeah.
full Grassley the first
Yes, we
time.
did.
What do you think? What are you feeling? Any?
I'm feeling the love of the people in this state. And I think that the good news is the establishment doesn't decide, the media doesn't decide, the people decide. And so it so happens we finished the 99 counties today. We didn't engineer it. We have the second round of this being done on January 2nd, I'm told. But I think we're going to win the Iowa caucus. And I think we're going to win it by speaking the hard truths. If you want somebody who's going to speak truth to power, vote for somebody who's going to speak the truth to you. And that's what I'm doing. And the people, I think, in this state are hearing it.
What are the three or a few of the main issues that you think?
National identity. National identity. Answer who we are as Americans, and the rest becomes easier. Sure, grow the economy, stand up with the spine on the global stage, secure this border. All that's important. But it starts with reviving our national identity. Answer who we are. To put America first, yes. Answer what America is. That's what I'm doing. I think we're going to be successful. I think it's going to take somebody from the next generation to do it. And I think we're going to win.
Awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you for taking the signs, guys. I appreciate it.
I'll put it up
Yeah.
in my farmyard.
Thank you. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I will.
I love that.
All right, thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank
Great
you
to
very
see you.
much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hey. How's it going, Brandon? Oh, that's great. I'm glad it makes me happy to see this space being used.